Good day, everyone. Welcome to the CESA, that's the Consulting Engineers of South Africa, Youth Best Practice webinar, Leadership and Management. I'll be a presenter, Uzair Osman. I'm a mechanical engineer with Bosch Projects, as well as a CESA YPF Deputy Chairperson. We have an interesting agenda for you today, but let us get started with a bit of news. First of all, I would like to encourage you to join CESA and the CESA YPF. They first of all, from my side, have helped me develop very well, and I would like a lot of people to experience a similar and have similar opportunities and developmental. So join in, contribute, and you never know. The link would be shared for you to join. Along in the chat box, so have a look out, and we'll hope to see you soon. You'll also be getting invites to other events such as these. I think recently we've been hit with the news that the ECSA president, Mashao Lawrence Lebea, has passed. He was someone. He's third from the left. Sorry, he's third from the left, and he was for us at CESA was a real contributor to us, and we'd like to send our sympathies to his family. But I think from ECSA themselves, they would like to share this. It was great sadness that we inform you that the passing of the Engineering Council of South Africa six-term President Mashao Lawrence Lebea, PRN. The council learnt of his passing on the 7th of December 2001, following a short illness and hospitalization. He was He was inaugurated in December 2020. Over the years, he has served various ECSA structures, including the fifth-term council as chairperson of the Central Registration Committee and chairperson of the Research Policy and Standards Committee. His vast experience in engineering sector spanned over 36 years, 26 of them in key management positions, both in private and public sector, including his role as Chief Executive Officer of the company Mashao Consulting Engineers Ltd, which he founded in 2002. He holds an engineering degree, a Master of Engineering degree from University of Pretoria. He was affiliated with various engineering bodies. Served as a member of CESA, served as a member of the National Society of Black Engineers on SEPTACO, as well as the SIC, as a fellow SIC. Engineer Lebea was dedicated and humble servant of the engineering fraternity and foundation of wisdom and pillar of strength, a beacon of hope to everyone who had the privilege of working with him. The Engineer Council of South Africa was honored to have been led by this gentle giant, who over the years has displayed exceptional leadership, due diligence, and represented the industry with pride, as well as worked to steer the organization towards a sustainable future by adopting sound and ethical policies to propel the organization further. Our thoughts and prayers with his family, his friends, his colleagues, engineering fraternity at large, who mourn his passing of our own. Okay. On that sad note, I'd like to move on. Our own general news is that we have a new president. Olu has now taken over, and we wish him all the best. And I think he's really looking to change things in South Africa. With regards to the agenda, now getting to the business end of it. This is our agenda for today. We'll run from 2:30 to 4:30. I will hope to welcome Michael Rabi, and then move on to conversation and a Q&A, and hopefully Avuyile will take over at the end to close it. Now, to introduce our guest speaker, Michael Rabi. He's a professional engineer who currently serves as one of the 5 directors of Resolve Consulting. He also serves on the steering committees of various research and standard setting bodies. Mike's engineering specialization, coupled with over 20 years of experience in the municipal and service sector as a director, operator, manager, planner, program, and project manager, coordinator, as well as a new business development manager, provides him with an in-depth understanding of the challenges facing service delivery and local government in South Africa. Mike has conceptualized, planned, and implemented large-scale municipal water invention projects around South Africa, and he was central to the development of policies at Johannesburg Water relating to the levels of service and levels of service and implementation of the prepayment water metering. It's my pleasure to welcome Michael. I will stop sharing and let him take over.
Good day, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to present today. I will be speaking on my career, my story, and I've included quite a couple of slides later on in the presentation just on Resolve Consulting, and that's a consulting engineering company that we established about 15, 16 years ago. But the first part of the presentation, I focused a little bit on being an entrepreneurial engineer. And the presentation does represent my life story and many of the lessons I've learned along the way. So I'm going to share my screen with everyone shortly, and then let's go through the presentation. And then Jose will open it up to some questions, I think, towards the end. So let me just share my screen. I think is that all on? If
we can see it, Mike, you just have to go onto full screen.
There, is that good?
We are good to go.
Okay. So I've entitled this presentation, Being an Entrepreneurial Engineer in South Africa. And to me, the principles of being an entrepreneur apply in South Africa, but they also apply to anyone in the rest of the world. It's not just restricted to South Africa. If you can be an entrepreneur in South Africa, you can be an entrepreneur anywhere in the world. And so it doesn't really matter where you're sitting. I think the skills and the competencies you need, you can apply anywhere. Just to create a little bit of context on the presentation, and also just it puts my life into context and my career into context. I think there's been huge technological advancements around the globe in the last 50 years. I started my working career about 32 years ago. It's a very long time ago, and we still use slide rules and drawing boards and things like that in our design office. And it just gives you an idea how things have changed. I mean, we've come through all of the electronic revolutions and even emails. I mean, I started my career using faxes and carbon copy paper and writing letters by hand and then having them typed up and mailed out. So there's been, I think everyone would agree, and the technological advancement seems to has just gone exponential. And I think that's very important to note, because the world is changing and it continues to change, and it continues to change at a rapid pace. to me, and if I look back on my working career, and you know, in the years I've worked, I've seen enormous political and social change in South Africa. I think South Africa is a melting pot in many ways for much of what has happened. I think you would all agree, you know, I've come through, I studied at Wits University in the 80s, and those were the apartheid years, and the years, you know, where so much was happening in the country. Came through the political transition that happened in the 90s, and a lot of that change has continued happening, and it's still happening, and I think there's going to be even more change in the future. And you know, it can be very disruptive. I've had to make a couple of career changes in my life, which have been very difficult for me. It wasn't easy, you know, going from being a municipal engineer to being a consulting engineer. I found that quite difficult, and it took me a couple of years to just make that transition. And I think we've all had to make transitions, and we'll all have to make transitions in the future. The world has seen a lot of economic upheaval, and I think it's going to continue. It's going to continue in this country. I think this country, the economy has changed drastically in the last 10, 20 years. And I think it's going to continue changing, and we'll need to keep up with that. Any engineer who doesn't see what's happening in this country and what's happening globally, and doesn't adapt to that is going to become redundant very, very quickly. And as I've said there, it's globally, it's nationally, and it's even locally. You know, as we see the mining industry, as an example, in this country, you know, the gold mining industry has become a sunset industry. And that's affected Gauteng in many, many ways. You know, lots of people moved to Gauteng, and jobs were maybe easy to find. And as the gold mining industry has wound down in Gauteng, I think that's affected the economy severely, even in Gauteng and in other parts of the country. And to me, it ain't over yet. There's still lots of change coming, and there's still going to be lots of change, I think, in this country and around the world. The developing and the developed worlds keep changing, and South Africa also keeps changing. I think everyone would agree that COVID has been the most disruptive thing that has happened over the last 2 years. I always used to, if I watched TV and I saw people wearing masks in Asian countries, you know, I almost couldn't believe that people have to walk around wearing masks. And yeah, we are 2 years later, we still have to wear masks in this country. And it just shows how disruptive COVID has been to the norm and to our society. And yes, it's not over yet. And there's a new normal that's coming, you know, due to COVID. So, you know, many things have changed. Many of the times I've wanted to feel very sorry for myself, and I want to cry. You know, you look at what's happening and you respond emotionally. Perhaps that's your first response. You see what's happened, and you know, your world has been disrupted, or your career has been disrupted, or something has happened that's just upset the norm. And you know, the first response is to feel sorry for yourself. And yes, I think hopefully with age and with maturity, you get over that, and you realize, you know, you have to adapt. The world is going to move on, and people are going to move on, and things are going to move on. You know, get on with it. Realize that you'll need to change. I think that's probably the most important point that you need to get to whenever there's change, and to realize that with change comes opportunity. And instead of focusing on the change and on perhaps a negative and how it's negatively affected you, you need to start looking at the opportunities and see what the opportunities are. And the opportunities are there. I think if a person just starts looking, you will see opportunities in all the change that's happening. As an example, I think before COVID, there was only $1 trillion company in the world, and that was Apple. On the New York Stock Exchange, I think the value of their shares was worth $1 trillion just before COVID. Today, after COVID, 2 years later, there are $5 trillion companies in the world. And you can imagine how those companies have taken advantage of the situation of COVID. For them, it's created opportunity. And so you can see, you know, one sort of problem really does create opportunity. And I think it's up to us as engineers and as entrepreneurs to see the opportunities and to grab hold of them and to do something and you know, respond in a way that you actually solve problems and not create more. I needed to put up that slide. I'm sure you all are aware, being engineers of the Mashao viaduct in France, you know. And the important point to me is that opportunity is not necessarily equal to success. They're not the same thing. You know, opportunity would stand one side of the valley. Somebody looked down that valley somewhere down the line and said, you know, we need to build a bridge across this valley to get from one side to the other and to make people's lives easier. And so there was an opportunity, obviously, for engineers to build a bridge, but success was only achieved once the bridge was actually built and once the bridge was standing. And yes, we can all look at that bridge today and marvel at the bridge. But, you know, opportunity, understand that opportunity and success are not the same thing. To get from one side to the other side, you will need to do lots and lots of hard work and capitalize on the situation and create the solution. And that's the point I'm trying to make, is that, you know, you'll need to be an entrepreneur to take the opportunity and run with it and turn it to success. And so I will spend, I've got a couple of slides here, and I'll just talk about, you know, what attributes people need and what character traits you need to be a successful entrepreneur and a successful business person in South Africa. Something that always comes back to me, and especially when you're trying to solve problems and trying to move forward with almost any aspect of your life, is it always comes down to attitude. And so to me, I've put up this slide because I think, as I say, in just trying to solve people problems and any problems you face, almost always your attitude determines your altitude. And, you know, you've got to first get your attitude right. It doesn't matter in what situation you're in. If your attitude is not right, you're not going to be very successful in solving any problem. And, you know, so often it's our attitude that determines our response to any situation. And so I've put up quite a couple of points there, and I'll just go through them very quickly. You know, life isn't fair. And the only way to deal with that is to get used to it. If you're waiting for life to get fair and for you to be treated fairly in this world, I think you're going to wait a very long time. Life is tough. It's lessons I've had to learn in life. You know, there's lots of times that life has just been tough. Things go against you, situations go against you, and it's tough, and the going gets tough. But you've still got choices, and you've got to understand the choices you've got and get out there and get on and make your life a success. You know, we don't get to making the rules. I think often we want to make the rules. And so I've put a note up there because I've also found at times you want to run onto the soccer field and you want to play basketball. And, you know, if you had that mindset and you ran onto the soccer field, you would very quickly be sent off because of handballs. And it's a simple point, but it applies to so much that we try and do. You know, we want to try and change the rules. We want to bend the rules so that they suit us. And it doesn't work. You know, the rules of soccer you can't change. The rules of soccer are there. If you run onto the soccer field, you have to abide by those rules. You can't change them. And so in life, don't try and change the rules. Play by the rules. There are no guarantees in life. If you're looking for a guarantee in life and you think your position or your background or your upbringing or your whatever it is, your position in a company or whatever is guaranteed, it's not. And things are going to change. And yeah, I think accept it and get on with life and understand that there's no guarantees. Tomorrow is not certain for any of us. You cannot change the past. It doesn't matter what you do, you cannot change the past. You cannot change what happened 5 minutes ago. You can literally only influence the present. In many ways, you can only change the present by having worked very hard yesterday to make today a better day for you. So you really can only change the future. So focus on the future. Don't even focus on the present necessarily. I think the future is the one that's important if you want to have a better present. Recognize your worldview. You know, we all have an upbringing and we all shaped by the environment in which we brought up. Whether that's a religious environment, a political environment, a social environment, whatever it is. And it so affects us. And we tend to respond so much to situations and to problems in life, looking at those in terms of a lens that we put on based on our upbringing. And, you know, you have to sit back and look deeper and understand that life isn't just about the way you were brought up and about your situation. There are consequences to bad behavior and bad choices. Again, so many people think you can make bad choices and you can maybe not control your behavior, but there are consequences. There are always consequences. It doesn't matter which way you behave. There will be consequences. If you behave well, there's obviously a better life waiting for you, and you can have a more successful life in this life. And if you make bad choices, there's also consequences to that. Make good choices. Again, just looking at my life and you know, contemplating on things, success is not an accident. I think so many people think you can go and buy a lot of lotto tickets or buy one lotto ticket and win the lotto and change your life. It might change. The lotto might make you rich quick, but it will probably make you poorer even quicker. And why is that? Why is it that people, you know, who win the lotto lose all the money just as quickly as what they won it? And I think the thing is that they don't understand success. Success is not an accident. It takes a lot of planning, preparation, and effort. It takes hard work. It's baby steps every day. Luck is only temporary. It really doesn't change your life in the long run. It might for a while. In the longer run, it's the decisions you make today that changes your life. As I've said, the lesson that I've learned in life is success is hard work and hard work and hard work and hard work. I think education is incredibly important because education gives you the tools and the ability to do things differently and to keep learning and to make a success of your life by having, you know, learned the lessons you need to learn, whether they are theoretical lessons or life lessons or whatever lessons they are. So keep learning. It's so important to success to just keep educating yourself and to continue growing as an engineer or as a professional. Whatever it is, just keep growing. You're never too old to keep learning new skills and new competencies. And there are no shortcuts, there are no free lunches, there's no lotto draws. You might think that you've got a shortcut and it will help you a lot. There are very few shortcuts in life that actually work. I think the other lesson to me is you need to look after your health. You know, it's as young professionals, you might think your health is good and you can just carry on living the life you're living. Your health eventually fails, and it catches up with you later on in life. A key to success is just looking after your health, especially as you get older, but while you're young. Success takes time. It doesn't happen overnight, and it takes a lot of work to be successful in life. It should be your goal to be successful. I think a life lesson, and I still need to apply it every day, is that, you know, again, we have to be of impeccable character. And everything we do, it's so important that we keep our character and we keep our integrity. Morals, ethics, integrity, and character are incredibly important. If you think you can go and face the world and face the challenges out there without having integrity and morals and character, I think you're going to not get very far. And I think all of us can look around and understand that, and just see people who've thought they can take shortcuts and who don't have to be, you know, uphold character and ethics, and it doesn't work. In our industry, I think there are lots of people who are trying to take shortcuts in terms of ethics and the way they do business and the way they procure business. It doesn't work. You know, rather uphold the ethics and keep your character intact. In many ways, you can't separate your character from who you are. If you think you can not have character and still, you know, have a successful life, I don't think that's possible. You are who you decide to be. People will judge you by your character and rather than your success. You know, if you look at, to me, an outstanding example of that is Nelson Mandela. You know, when you think of Nelson Mandela, you don't think of him as being the president of South Africa initially, your initial response. To me, if I think of Nelson Mandela, I think of a great leader and somebody who had great character and integrity and humility. And I think a lot of people feel the same way about our former president. It was his character that shone through and not necessarily his position or the position he occupied. People will follow you because of who you are, and they will follow you because they see leadership in you and they see your character. They won't follow you because of your position. Bribery and corruption will destroy you. You know, I've often thought about the word corruption and how that impacts on people and why they use the word corruption. If you look at corruption at a scientific level, at an engineering level, you know, something becomes corrupt. And corruption normally starts off very, very small. It starts off like a rot. And it just eats away at the metal or at the wood or whatever it is. And it eventually corrupts the whole piece of wood or the metal, the rust, just eventually corrupts everything. And that's why the word corruption is used to describe, you know, a lack of character. You can't compromise one little bit. You compromise one little bit, you're compromising your character. Be ethical in everything you do. It's perhaps so crucial to being a good engineer and to making a success of your life. Never compromise. So, do engineers make good entrepreneurs? And I put there in brackets sometimes. Just because you're an engineer doesn't mean that you're going to be a good entrepreneur or that you're going to be entrepreneurial. I think engineers can have the basics or the competencies to be good entrepreneurs. And that's why I say it. I think engineers are, for the most part, educated and intelligent, and I think we're good at problem solving. I mean, we actually trained to solve problems and train them using analytical skills. And because of that, I think, you know, you can tackle many problems in the world and come up with solutions. Engineers are good at project management and at management in general. And that's a great plus for becoming an entrepreneur or a business person. And I think engineers can grasp a lot of financial situations as well, and understand that a project needs to pay for itself and it needs to have a financial return. What engineers are not, and again, I'm generalizing a lot here, but people skills can often fall by the wayside, and it becomes more important to focus on the detail of a project rather than on the people involved in that project. And I think we can see many examples of that around the country and in the working environment. Often engineers are not good at working in teams. I think we often want to go off on our own and go and, you know, prove that our way of thinking or our way of doing things is the best way, and that's not necessarily the best approach to working with other people. And we don't necessarily make good leaders. You know, leadership is it's a skill set that we need to acquire in life. Life should teach us how to be good leaders. And we're not always good at seeing the bigger picture. I found myself often focusing on the detail, just keep focusing on the detail. And so often a person needs to just step back and see the bigger picture and see what you're trying to accomplish and what you're trying to achieve, rather than just keep focusing on the detail. I don't think we're always creative enough. Many problems are solved just through creativity, coming up with a creative solution rather than an engineered solution. So the creativity needs to shine through in everything we do. So yes, I think we need to learn to work in teams, and we need to improve our people skills and our leadership skills and our financial view of the world. You know, financial people see the world very different to the way we see it. And I think we need to work together. One of your greatest teams I've seen in my working career is when your financial people and your engineering people can work together. You normally come up with a much stronger and better solution to a problem. And we need to see the bigger picture, not just see the detail. What would I say are the main character traits of an entrepreneur? You know, I think persistence and perseverance is so important. A problem doesn't just get solved overnight, and you've got to keep persevering and persevering and persevering until you solve it. Creativity to me is very, very important. If you're going to set up a business, I think you're going to need to be very creative in how you approach setting up a business and making it successful. As I said earlier on, emotional maturity is a massive thing to me. You know, so often we respond to a situation and the first response is an emotional one. And that emotional response is the wrong one. And if you start making decisions based on that emotional response, you're probably going to destroy relationships around you and destroy a lot of what you've built. And taking responsibility, it has a lot to do with emotional maturity, but just take responsibility for your life and for the situation around you and for the responsibilities you have. Innovation, I think innovation, as I said, the technology just keeps moving, and unless you're willing to move with it, you're going to find yourself antiquated. Being a hard worker is very, very important, and being a risk taker. You know, so often we don't want to take risks. We would rather be conservative and save the money rather than understand what it can give us in the future. So if I had to have my life all over again and I had to, you know, look at my working career and I've now got the luxury of hindsight, you know, how would I put down, what lessons would I put down there that you could all benefit from? And so I've put down 10 lessons there that I think, you know, in the perfect world where you're setting out from the beginning and you're creating a business or you're creating a model or you're doing something differently, that to me, those lessons there, you would need to really apply. I don't think in hindsight, I wouldn't say I've applied those lessons very, very well, you know, because as they say, necessity is the mother of all invention. And a lot of what I've done has been born out of necessity and not necessarily born out of, you know, understanding where you're going and what you want to achieve. But those are important. I think understand your opportunity, really understand what it is that the opportunity that's ahead of you, and how you can really grasp that opportunity and turn it to your account. And deeply understand the problem you're trying to solve. You know, so often you need to solve the problem behind the problem. You know, we try and maybe see the problem at face value, and that's not actually the problem you're trying to solve. The problem is maybe a much deeper one, or something else, and we're just treating the effect rather than the cause. I think incredibly important to any sort of establishment of a business that you're looking at, or being an entrepreneurial engineer, you need to do your research. You know, research is so readily available today, and it's actually very easy nowadays to do research. And the guys who do their research almost always come up with a better solution than the guys who don't. So do your research. Make sure what you're actually embarking on can work, and that somebody else hasn't done it already for you. Very important. And take risks. You know, again, so often as engineers, we don't necessarily want to take a risk. And it's so important to be able to get to a point where you take a calculated risk. And I'm not talking about gambling and gambling finances away and things like that. I'm talking about taking a calculated risk, an informed decision to embark on a business that will turn to your account eventually. It might not work right in the beginning, and you would probably have to put in a lot before it becomes very successful, but you can do it. And I think so important, again, just rise above the threats, the fears, and the feelings of failure and everything else. And you might fail in the beginning, and you might fail more than once, you know, but just rise above it. You don't have to be caught in the emotions of failure. Be willing to learn, very, very important. You know, so often we think we know the way forward, and we know all the answers, and we don't necessarily know. And there's people out there who know the answers a lot better than what we do. So be willing to learn. And be careful who you listen to. I've put that in there. I think that's a very important one, because you know, you'll probably have more people telling you not to do what you want to do than telling you you should do it. And so it's very important that you think very carefully of who you're listening to, and understand who's giving you advice and who's telling you what you should be doing or what you shouldn't be doing. I think if you're going to establish a business, you should be willing to lose anything you've ever owned and anything you've ever possessed. If your car that you're driving, that you're still paying off, or your house is more important than your business, you know, or setting up a business, you may find that becomes a stumbling block. And I'm not saying you must go and sell your house and all your possessions. That's not what I'm saying. I think you just have to get to a point where you realize you might have to go without a salary for a long time in order to get your business going. Have successful role models in your life. I think that's so important, because there are people out there who've done it successfully, and they're important as role models. And then be creative and innovative. Come up with solutions that other people haven't thought of. To translate an innovative idea into something that can make you successful and works for you, it's going to take working with people. I don't care who you are. There are very few people, even if you look at the most successful business people in the world today, and I'm talking of the Bill Gates and the Elon Musks, you know, they might have had a great idea to start off with, but very quickly they had to employ people, and very quickly they had to set up a business, and very quickly they had to work in teams and create resources and employ people and just set up systems and procedures and things to make it successful. And you know, it doesn't matter what your idea is. To take that idea and turn it into a business takes a lot of hard work, and it takes, you know, a lot of organization and planning and working with people and just managing systems and people and resources. I don't know how to emphasize it anymore, but that's what it takes. You know, your business will very quickly grow if you're on the right track. It will very quickly grow from 1 person to 5 persons to 20 people and to, you know, multiple offices or whatever it is. And if you've got that growth, you will need to put in place systems and people and you know, a proper organization to be able to manage that growth. I'll put up a couple of slides about Resolve, and a lot of what I've spoken about is my experience in getting Resolve going. You know, I spent the first half of my life as a municipal engineer. I worked for municipalities, and yes, with a lot of the transition and transformation and change that we've seen in South Africa, I was pretty much forced out of my career. You know, if I had perhaps my own choices, I would perhaps still be working in municipalities. And yeah, it was tough. You know, changes brought about that I needed to do a career change. And yeah, I stepped out and I had to change my mindset and change it from being a municipal engineer with a fairly secure working environment around me to being a consultant and becoming a consultant and setting up a consultancy that could work in South Africa. We did see the opportunity and we grabbed that opportunity and we've ran with it. So I want to just talk a little bit about Resolve. This is not a marketing or a advertorial. I think it's a lot of what I've said is linked to, you know, what's happened to us as Resolve. Resolve is a consulting engineering company, and we focus on water management solutions. And you know, water needs to be managed just like you manage finances and you manage so much other things in your life. You need to manage water, and municipalities have struggled, and many companies have struggled in South Africa just to manage water and how water is moved around and how water is billed for. So as Resolve, we've taken advantage of those opportunities which are there, and we've created you know, a water management company, and most of our client base is municipalities, so it's government, local government and national government. We do a fair amount of work for the private sector, but it tends to be not our main focus. We are hoping to change that in the next year or two, so let's see how we go. Just quickly, you know, looking at the company, we were established in 2005. The company has grown, and it's grown fairly extensively. You know, we started off as 2 engineers, and the company in 2005. Today, we're 155 employees around the country, and we operate out of 9 offices. I've put up some of those offices there. I think we've got 2 offices in Ekurhuleni, running a project for Ekurhuleni Metro. And we work for Ervat on the East Rand. We have managed to achieve a level 1 BEE's rating. We've worked very hard to obtain our level 1 status, and that's been a great achievement. I think we operate a fleet of around 60 vehicles, as I say, out of 9 offices. So, you know, the company has grown, and it takes an enormous amount of management just to manage a vehicle fleet. We registered with all the professional bodies in South Africa. I won't go through them all there, but CESA is there, so we are part of CESA, and hence this presentation. And yeah, I think we're passionate about saving water and improving water efficiency and water use in South Africa. There's plenty of opportunity for people to manage water better. That's just a list of the sort of services we provide to our clients. And you can see there we've got water demand management, project management, supply of water. We've been strongly focused with the Department of Public Works in the last couple of years, putting in alternative supply solutions. I'm looking at borehole water and the use of groundwater, but also the use of retreated water. We do a lot of water loss management, where we just try and reduce water losses for municipalities. I say we try, we actually get it right, and we do bring about huge water savings for many of the municipalities we work in. And water quality management, it's a smaller aspect of what we do, but there's water quality is a massive issue in South Africa, and water quality is also needs to be managed. We've done a fair amount of developmental engineering and a fair amount of working for aid agencies in South Africa, international aid agencies in the past. So yes, I think that's just putting it in perspective, the people we employ, and we pride ourselves in developing people and developing our learner plumbers. I think we've still got about 27 learner plumbers working for us that we're training to become fully certified plumbers. We spend a lot of money in terms of skills development. You can see there at this stage we're spending about 3 million rand per year on skills development and socio-economic development. We've also very successfully implemented the YES program, the Youth Employment Scheme of government, and capitalized on that program to provide youth in this country jobs. And that's been very successful and helped us with our BEE score. As you can see there, we've gone from a level 5 in 2017 to a level 1 in 2020 and again this year. So we're very proud of that. We've worked very hard to achieve that contributor status. And this picture just puts up we do a lot of pressure management for clients and for municipalities and for facilities. It just gives you an idea of the sort of work we're involved with. I know it's a lot of construction work, but there's a fair level of engineering that goes into water management. And so I think we're able to capitalize on the link, providing turnkey solutions for our clients, where we can design a solution and then build it and make sure it actually works and commission it and make sure water savings are actually achieved and water is used more efficiently. And yes, those are some of the municipalities we work for. I think there's a much longer list. We do a lot of work for other consulting engineering companies around water management. We do a lot of sampling for ADVAT, East Rand Water Care Company, and the Department of Public Works. We've in a shared savings contract with the Department of Public Works, whereby we chase down water savings at facilities, and we work in 3 provinces in the country for public works: Western Cape, and Northwest, and Free State. So yeah, I think in conclusion, I want to just make the point that your world and my world, but your world is going to look very, very different to what it looks like today. And it's going to look different tomorrow. It's going to look different next year and the year after. The pace of change in the world in which we live just seems to get more and more rapid. And, we stand on the brink of a world needing to use energy differently, needing to move around mobility. I think we're going to see huge changes in mobility in the very near future, huge changes in the way the world uses energy, and just so many massive changes that are coming. And if as an engineer, you will need to be involved in those changes. And I think there's massive opportunity coming in the next 10 years for any engineer in this country and even abroad. And anyone who cannot see that and who cannot capitalize on that, needs to really go and look at this presentation again and understand that being an entrepreneur, there's going to be lots of opportunity. So anyone can take advantage of those opportunities and turn it to account. And I think there are examples out there of people who've seen those opportunities and just turned them to account and become hugely successful. And any single person can be just as successful if they really apply their minds to it. Okay, so thank you for the opportunity to present. I see I've still got a couple of minutes. I've put up my name there and my details. My details can also be obtained through CESA. And yes, I think if there's anyone, any young professional who's looking for some assistance or guidance, let us know. Let me know. You can contact me, and I'm willing and happy to provide advice and to provide guidance and to mentor, within reason. I don't have a huge amount of time on my hands, but I can mentor. And let's make a success of this country and of the change that's happening in this country and the change that still needs to happen and the change that's coming in the world. We all need to be better engineers and better equipped to just grasp the changes and grasp the opportunity and just make a success of the careers that we have. At this point, I'll stop sharing my screen, and I guess it's back to Azir for a question session.